Laura, our fourth wonderful panelist, I would love to have you on now to tell us your story. And then we will follow up with questions. I know a lot of people probably have questions, but welcome, Laura. And thank you for coming, I believe, from Colorado today, unless you're
Yes.
traveling.
Nope, I am in
Okay, good.
Colorado. Thank you for having me. And I will say, I think it's very hard to distill the EMBA experience into 5 minutes. So if anybody on this call has other questions after the panel, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I am happy to answer anything else because I feel like I'm still processing what I really got from the EMBA, and so I'm happy to share anything with you, privately as well. But so as Debbie said, I am in Colorado. I'm at the Colorado Restaurant Association, where I'm currently the COO and foundation president. I did commute in once a month for the 2 years of the program. My backstory, I have been in the restaurant and hospitality business pretty much my entire career, and I jumped around a lot. I was in training and development, fine dining, wine sales, customer service. I was a restaurant critic and journalist for several years. I was in PR and marketing, and then I landed at the Colorado Restaurant Association about 6 years ago. If you're not familiar with trade associations, we really act as the advocate for our industry at all levels of government for restaurants in the state of Colorado. And then we provide operational resources, education, workforce development, training, stuff like that for owners and operators. So I started there as a communication director about 6 months before COVID. I never want to live through another COVID, but it was a very professionally rewarding time for me. We became a comm shop during COVID, so it was an opportunity to very quickly advance through my organization into executive leadership. And then I became the president of the foundation in 2021. So I was in executive leadership when I applied to the program at Anderson. In spring of 2023, I had my second baby, and I was on maternity leave when I decided that that was the time to get an MBA. So I realize how insane that is, but I say that to you all so that you can know, you can hear emphatically that you can definitely do an MBA while you have young children. You just should make sure you've got a very supportive support network. My husband moved heaven and earth to take on the lion's share of the work. And I'm sure that would have been a point of conflict if he weren't potentially more invested in my MBA than I was. So just so you all know, it is possible. My kind of reasoning there, when I got into executive leadership, I was like, yes, this is it for me. I love being in charge. But I thought if I was going to continue to move up in organization size, and if I wanted to eventually get out of nonprofit, I didn't know, I wasn't ready to make a change when I applied to the program, but I thought, hey, I'm going to need an MBA at some point, or this is going to, it's going to get tricky. So I looked at UCLA for a few reasons. So coming in from out of state, I had already kind of eliminated the local programs in Colorado. I knew they weren't what I wanted. And part of that was for their offering, but also for the schedule. I know I feel like several of us have touched on it, but the fact that UCLA had a monthly cohort that I didn't really even have to miss work for because classes started after my workday ended was huge when I was juggling kind of the responsibilities of executive leadership. So that was a major reason why I originally looked at UCLA. The prestige definitely didn't hurt. I was looking at top programs, and then I had gotten the feedback that the most important thing I was going to take from my MBA program was the network, and UCLA has just felt the most expansive. LA was kind of the only place I would have considered moving to when I started the program, and it just felt like there were UCLA grads everywhere. And then a couple of other things, and others have mentioned this as well. I really liked the global focus of UCLA, and then the industry diverse piece was really important to me. I didn't want to go somewhere where it was like super marketing or finance focused or super industry focused like tech. So I think it really, so those were all my reasons for choosing it. I actually think that undersells the program. I think it totally delivers on all of those things. I'll highlight a couple of ways. The industry diverse piece, the peer learning here is huge. Dean Adams talked about the study groups. This was a great way to practice a lot of those soft leadership skills. One of the single most valuable lessons and probably the first revelation I had in school was my first study group, where I worked the best actually with the person who on paper was the most different from me. That immediately became sort of translatable and sort of everything. I now actively seek out people who think differently from me, which was not something I did before going to Anderson. And then the global immersion piece the global the Global Management Center is just like my global immersion in Singapore was probably the single best class I took. In addition to kind of what Anish talked about, it was also just an opportunity to see leaders in action on a really global scale. So from a strategic thinking standpoint, I think that was huge. A couple of other things I would highlight that I actually got from the program that I think were really valuable. Number one is just tools to do my job better. I think coming in as I had thought about doing an MBA earlier in my career. I'm so glad I didn't. I'm so glad I waited until I was in kind of executive leadership because literally everything I learned in the program was immediately applicable or at least immediately testable. Like not everything may work for you, but being able to bring it back and apply it immediately, I think it was such a value add. And that includes kind of the technical skills from core classes, especially in areas where I was weak, like tech management and finance, the coaching and personalized insights. The hours of coaching, I feel like help process everything in real time, really personal guide to leadership development. And then Michael touched on the sharpened strategic thinking. That was huge. I think that came from the faculty, but also the cohort learning, the access to the leaders. That was big. So one thing to highlight out of the tools to do my job better, I was promoted to COO of the association at the beginning of this year. So in addition to the president of the foundation, I'm also now the COO of the association. I am 100% sure I would not have gotten that role without the Anderson MBA. Taking back the frameworks to my organization enabled me to build the case that role should exist in my organization and that person should be me. And then the other thing I think I would highlight, so I told you I went in thinking I just want to be in executive leadership, but at bigger and bigger companies. That's actually not where I ended at Anderson. The BCC program was hugely transformative for me. I had an idea in a completely different industry at the beginning of my time at Anderson and started working it through the kind of entrepreneurship training program. And just going through that process really built confidence for me about how to sort of kick the tires around an idea. How would you actually build a business? And so I am certain that my next step will not actually be to go to a larger organization as an executive. It will be to start my own business. So I think that entrepreneurship, there's a very structured sequence to that training. And that is probably the thing that will continue to pay dividends for me in the long run. I guess one other thing on the network I forgot to mention, two members of my original study team have actually now moved to Colorado. So I was right about the UCLA network being everywhere. That continues to expand. So I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Laura. First of all, congratulations on your additional position. You really can do it all. I'm so impressed by our alumni.